Denshattack is a game that I would always see pop up every now and then, and I always thought it looked interesting, but not too awfully high on my radar. But I knew it was coming out and decided to play it since, it was on Game Pass, so why not? And oh my god, guys, you need to play this game. Hi guys, DPX here, reviewing today Denshattack. Now before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will run you over with a train. Starting off with the good, Denshattack is a very weird combination of games, but it all works. What you are seeing here is like a mix of Tony Hawk, Sonic the Hedgehog, Jet Set Radio, SSX, Wipeout, F-Zero, and more. You see the inspirations all throughout this game, but despite taking from so many other games, Denshattack still manages to stand on its own. Pretty much you play as a train. The best gaming protagonist of the year thus far, a train. But you play through many levels. Most of them are just starting a level, getting through it, and then finishing it, which despite that bland description, actually probably are like my favorite levels in the game. But there's also levels where you race against other CPUs, levels where you play until you complete certain objectives, levels where you play until you hit a certain high score. And then there's boss fights. These are all, for the most part, fun. But as for the gameplay, it's so much fun, maybe even too much fun. Had I not been like working a job during the week, which made it so that I didn't have as much time to play this game as I probably would have, I maybe would have finished this game sooner, not because I would be rushing, but because it's just so addicting. It really is that type of game where it's like, okay, after this one, I'm gonna put the game down for a bit. And then you play that level, but then go, okay, one more. And then that cycle continues for like 3 hours. And I think what also adds to that are the little objectives within each level, like little challenges. It gives you an incentive to replay every level, and it's a lot of fun. But I got sidetracked. I'm supposed to be talking about the gameplay. That's what I originally segued to. Well, it's awesome. You are controlling a train that is going really fast and is doing some insane shit that you don't picture trains doing. There is a trick system in Denshattack that reminds me a lot of Tony Hawk, but also like kart racers, like Mario Kart or Sonic Racing, and specifically the most recent entries of those series is because you can trick multiple times, which I know this game was probably in development before those two games came out, but still, it reminds me of that, and it's satisfying. And there is also a grinding system when you balance on something, and it feels so cool. That definitely reminds me of skateboarding games like Skate and Tony Hawk. There's also wall riding and wall jumping, which is also, it just feels so awesome, even if a little unresponsive every now and then, but it's still epic. Then there's other abilities and mechanics that get introduced in like the final chapters of the game, which I won't spoil what they are, but I love it when games still manage to give you new mechanics and new just additions to the game super late into the game, as it's finding new ways to keep it fresh all throughout. And those boss fights, my god, those are so cool. You're probably wondering how you do a boss fight as a train. Well, Denshattack gets very creative with its bosses. I don't want to fully get into what the boss fights are and why they are so great, but goddamn, they are fucking great. Except for the one at the end of Chapter 8, that one kind of sucked, but it's the only one. As for other things, this game is very anime, and I mean very anime. That might not work for a lot of people, but it did for me, despite even not really being an anime guy. But the aesthetic and vibe throughout the whole game is awesome. It sort of feels like an anime, but I'd say the cutscenes feel more like a manga, in that it's like still images, but they still like all look really sick. And it even has a pretty decent story. I honestly didn't care as much for the story as I think most people did. I was mainly in love with everything else, but the story is still great. And my god, the music. Holy shit. This has got to be my favorite soundtrack of the year thus far, and I honestly don't see anything else topping it. There's a few games coming out that maybe could, but like, god damn, this is so good. This will probably get a best score and music nomination, cause if not, that's a fucking snub, cause right now, it'd be my pick to win. And yeah, Denshattack is just a fucking epic ride of a game. No pun intended. Pun kinda intended, I guess. It takes inspiration from so much while being truly unique and uber addictive on its own. Moving on to the mixed aspects of Denshattack, these are really things that could go either way. These are kind of issues that I don't really consider bad. You know, one is the controls took a bit of getting used to. I know that's probably just a me thing, which is why it's in the mix, but whenever the game would give you a new ability, it would take me a while to get used to the correct button or button combination to use that ability, so if you see me dying a lot in the footage here, that's probably why. Not a bad thing, but something I think worth pointing out. And the other thing is, well, it's not something I've experienced myself, but I've listened to many reviews saying that going for 100% completion on the first go makes this game less fun. I'm talking more about like the challenges within each level, the ones that aren't required in order to finish a stage. I had a lot of fun with the game, but probably wouldn't have had as much fun restarting each level every time I screwed up and missed a challenge. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying you can't 100% the game, but maybe like play through the game first and then go back to each level and try to clear all the challenges. You might have more fun that way. As for the bad, I got one nitpick and then two bigger issues that aren't really that big, but they are big-ish. The nitpick I have is that there's no auto advance for the dialogue. I don't know, I just don't like it when you have dialogue in a game that is presented in the way it is here, and you have to continuously press A or whatever button to advance after a character is done talking. Not a terrible thing, you know, I'm not gonna like, you know, protest against this, but like, it's just annoying when it happens. As for things I really didn't like that were more issues with the game for me, I mentioned earlier that there are score-based levels, which are levels where you are on a stage and you are given a time limit, and within that time limit you have to get a certain high score. If you don't get that high score within the time limit, you have to try again, and you basically have to keep trying until you get the high score within the time limit. And those are probably my least favorite levels. They're not terrible, but they did kind of feel like padding at a certain point, and I would constantly fail to get a high score until I randomly did it right once, and when I did, I have no idea what I did differently to actually succeed. And lastly, something I briefly mentioned earlier, and that's the boss fight at the end of Chapter 8. Bro, fuck that. Every other boss fight was fast and flashy and bombastic in a great way. This one was very slow and you're kind of just waiting for the enemy to do things. It was not fun. I honestly don't think I'd be pointing it out, but that was the boss of Chapter 8, and there's 9 chapters in this game. So yeah, look, it's just one boss fight that I really didn't like. I thoroughly enjoyed it and even loved all the other boss fights, but I just wanted to point that out.
3, 2, 1, go!
Look, I listed some things that bothered me, but overall, don't get it twisted. Denshattack is a hell of a game. It takes the vibe of Jet Set Radio, the speed of Sonic, and a bit of F-Zero or Wipeout, the trick system and grinding mechanics of games like SSX and Tony Hawk and Skate, and the aesthetic of just anime, I guess, and still manages to form something truly unique and addicting. This is probably a game that I will continue to come back to 100% each level now that I've beaten the main game. And it might not be my game of the year, you know, this game has given us some bangers, but has easily dethroned Mouse PI for Hire as my indie game of the year. A game like this further proves that indie is where the true creativity of the industry lies. In the end, I give Denshattack a 10 out of 10. So that's my review for Denshattack. Another banger game of the year. I know it's early to start thinking about this, but when I get to my favorite games of the year by the end of the year, oh, it's gonna be tough. And to think we still have, what, 5 more months left? It's gonna be a fun ride. But this will probably end up ranking among, like, my favorites. What do you guys think? Denshattack, do you guys like the game, not like the game? Have you guys played it, not played it? If you guys haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Have you even heard of this game? It has kind of, like, it is sort of a niche game, but it's on Game Pass, so you got that right there. And even if you don't want to do that, it's $20 on, like, everything. So, yeah, I easy recommendation. Anyways, be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, or I will run you over with a train. Bye!